it's like a nice dry white wine that goes down easy. You're like, it's at
Yeah.
a $12 bottle that goes down really easy. And I'm like, hell yeah, I'll drink that. And I feel like these books, a lot of these mysteries for me are in that category of like,
Yeah.
there are a lot of things you can harp at, but I'm like, ultimately, it did feel like that $12 bottle of white wine where I'm
Yes.
like, yeah,
It's
absolutely. Like,
exactly, yeah. And I think that's hard to do.
yes.
Welcome to The Stacks, a podcast about books and the people who read them. I'm your host, Tracy Thomas, and it's the last Wednesday of the month, aka the Stacks Book Club Day. Today, we are discussing the 1990 classic mystery novel, Devil in a Blue Dress by Walter Mosley. I'm joined for this conversation by screenwriter and cultural critic, Kara Brown. In our chat today, we dig into the racial politics of the novel, try to unpack the crimes and their motives, and discuss the violence and PTSD depicted throughout the book. There are a lot of spoilers on today's episode. Be sure to listen to the end of the episode to find out what our June book club pick will be. Quick reminder, everything we talk about on each episode of The Stacks can be found in the link in the show notes. If you love this podcast and you want inside access to it, there are two fantastic ways to support the show. One is by joining the Stacks Pack community over on Patreon by going to patreon.com/thestacks. Over there, you're going to get bonus episodes, access to our Discord community, and a lot more. The other way you can support is by subscribing to my newsletter. That's where I'm going to give you a lot of hot takes about books and pop culture. You'll get bonus episodes over there too, don't you worry. And you can do that by going to tracythomas.substack.com. Either way, you're earning perks for yourself and helping me make this podcast free every single week. Okay, now it's time for my conversation with Kara Brown about Walter Mosley's debut novel, Devil in a Blue Dress. All right, everybody, it is the Stacks Book Club Day. We are joined again by the wonderful Kara Brown. Kara, welcome back to the Stacks.
Hello. I feel like I'm extra excited for
I'm
this
really
combo.
excited too because neither of
Yeah.
us know what the other one thinks and we're both just smirking at each other. So I can't wait. But before we do that, let me tell y'all what we're going to talk about today. We're talking about Devil in a Blue Dress, the 1990 debut of iconic mystery writer Walter Mosley. It's the first book in the Easy Rawlins series, which has like a billion books in it. There's a new one coming out this year. He's not done. Easy is had a hard life. And for folks who are listening who have not read the book, we are going to spoil this book. So if you haven't read it, you should pause. We're going to talk about every twist and turn. We're not going to leave you with anything to revel in if you read it now. So if you haven't read it now or don't care about spoilers. That's up to you. And let me give a quick little plot summary. Quick plot setup.
Please.
I'm going to try.
Do your best.
Okay. So Ezekiel, aka Easy Rawlins, is a World War II veteran who is from Houston by way of Louisiana, who has moved to Los Angeles. Great migration, anybody? He is out of work when we find him. He's just been laid off from his job and he's at a bar. His friend Joppy's bar, and a white man walks in. We get white man in the first sentence, iconic. Who is looking for a white lady named Daphne Monet. He says to Easy, I will pay you a whole bunch of money if you can find this white lady. I can't find her myself because she likes to frequent Negro establishments. Easy decides to do it because he's got a mortgage payment. And then from there, we try to find Daphne. A lot of people die between meeting DeWitt, the white man, and the end of the book. There's many murders. All murders. No one just like has cancer. No, it's murder after murder after murder. So that's the setup of the book. We always start here. So just kind of generally, Kara, what did you think of the book?
I feel like I didn't really know. Like I finished it and I was like, first of all, I had to like really think about what happened because a lot of people died, as you said. And a lot of people died kind of like, I know it's a book, but I'm going to say like off screen.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like they died in a way where you just heard that they had died, which made it a little hard to follow. Because you would like meet someone and they'd be like, they're dead. And you're like, oh, okay. because
Yeah.
you only had like a scene with them and then they were dead. Um, so yeah, I guess I'm giving him a little leeway in terms of this sort of detective murder mystery thing because it's the first book, so you have to set it up because it's sort of right, like it's the canon. Like
Yeah.
he's not a detective yet.
Yeah.
I imagine now, like I can't even imagine what year it is in these books that he's still writing them now because it's like 1948 or something
Probably like the
in this first one.
90s.
Yeah, he's got to be like an old man.
Yeah.
But like it wasn't really like a detective story, I would say.
Yeah.
And I think because when I think of Walter Mosley, that's what I am expecting. It left me having to like figure out what I had just read a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. So I agree with that. I think my takeaway was like, I enjoyed reading it. Like, I read it quickly. I was locked
Yeah.
in. I would sit down and I would read like 50 pages and be like, whoa, like I am reading this. I found myself by the time we sort of got to everything wrapping up, extremely confused. I mean, I took so many notes that were like, who killed who, but also why? Like, why did that person know that other person and kill them? And because so many of the murders that happened on and off screen were by and of peripheral characters. So that was very confusing to me. Like there's a guy, Hugh or Howard, who dies like at the top of the book that I don't think we actually ever meet him. We just hear about his murder and then like find out later that like Joppy did it. And I'm like, wait,
Yeah.
why? So I think that was like really challenging for me. There's a huge twist at the end, which we will get to, that I saw coming a mile away.
Yes, yes.
Mostly because I know who Walter Mosley is, and also because some of the dialogue just was like gave it away
Yeah.
for me. But also that is my personal kink is that kind of twist. I'm always looking for it. I'm always like, mm? Okay, so let's just dive into the book. One of the things that I feel like one of the things that I would like to talk about with you, because you know these things, is like what is supposed to happen in a detective mystery? Because I also felt like this was sort of I felt like Walter Mosley knew or hoped there would be more to this man's story. And there's a section like towards the end where he's looking for Frank. And he's like going into the barbershop and going all these places. And I took a note that was like, this is the creation myth of Easy Rollins. Like, it's so clear to me that at this point, he's decided this will continue. So can you talk just like a little bit about the genre of like what we should be expecting?
I mean, I don't know that I'm like an expert, but I will say from my recent reading, what's interesting is I read a lot of books like Devil in a Blue Dress in that they were the first books in an ongoing
Okay.
series.
Okay.
So because I was starting from scratch, so I read the begin, like I read the first Agatha Christie novel with
Right.
what's the dude Perot, like that guy, and then and yeah, and a few other ones that were really like the origin stories. So it was a lot of like um the books I was reading, they weren't people who were detectives. They were like, oh, I'm like a lady in a town, and now I do detective work because I got
Right.
pulled into a murder, and this is like my quirky life now. So I feel like in that regard, that is what this book did. Like it set him up to go off and be a detective. I think what maybe this was meant to be sort of the twist or the different thing with this. There's not one big murder,
Right.
which generally has been in the things I've been reading. There's like a murder and
Right.
someone is trying to solve a murder. So this very much did not have that. Instead, it had, I'm looking for this white lady. And along the way, a lot of people die. And so in that way, it definitely didn't feel like a murder mystery. It felt like
Right.
a mystery, but not like we're trying to solve for a murder. I've found too, or at least the stories that I liked, it was, and I guess he sort of did this where it's part of this community. I think what happened with this one
Yeah.
is like there's so many damn people that I like couldn't really get a grip on the community because what I liked in some of these other mystery novels was like, okay, I'm in this small town, I'm in this community, I'm meeting the people in town, and you're like, oh, who could it be? What are their relationships with each other? They all have mysteries amongst themselves that aren't murder but are other things they're trying to hide, and that informs
Yeah.
the discovering the murder. This felt like I do think he did a pretty good job of like placing me in Los Angeles at this time,
Yeah.
but I wasn't with anyone for more than like 3 pages.
Yeah.
So I kind of couldn't really follow how they were informing the mystery, how they were concealing the mystery. I
Right.
didn't necessarily think of any of them as suspects,
Right.
weirdly.
Right. No, I think that's right. I felt like I was sort of confused. I mean, I think the big question for me that kept coming up is like, why? Why? Not so much what, but like why? Why would this person care about that? Or like what would motivate someone to murder another person in this situation? And I feel like we didn't get a lot of that. And so that was like really held me back. Um, One of the things that I have to ask you about is the racial politics in this book. Because on the back of my copy, I don't know if you have the same one as me, I have like the 2020
Yeah.
reprint, but there's a quote from the New York Times that says, more than simply a detective novel, Mosley is a talented author with something vital to say about the distance between the black and white worlds, and with a dramatic way to say it. And I've heard a lot of people talk about like his writing about race. And obviously this book came out in 1990, but I don't think he had anything to say about race so much. Or like he had some things, but nothing profound or interesting to me. But I'm wondering if that's just because I'm 35 years ahead of this. And so it didn't feel like new or interesting.
Yeah. I mean, we have the white cops and we have
Yes.
all of the bad white guys,
Yes.
which doesn't feel, I'm like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Um,
This tracks.
yeah. And he's mostly interacting with other black people. You know,
But
like
he
most
runs
of the
into
interact.
so many white people. Every time he's out, he's like, there's a white
Yeah,
man in a car. He like bumps into them.
yeah, he has these sort of like one-off kind of business arrangements,
Yeah.
but like he's not spending time with any white people.
No.
He doesn't seem to have any relationships with any white people. I would say the closest they got was him and his boss, where he's like, I'm not apologizing to this
Right.
honky kind of
Yeah.
vibe was like,
Yeah.
you know, and I was like, that scene was kind of interesting because I think also like
Mhm.
right, like he's actually Italian, was just trying to be funny. And so you're like, okay, so he does exist in this kind of ethnic white space where
Right.
that changes their interaction or colors it in some way, and he doesn't want to kowtow to him. And that's kind of interesting. But yeah, I mean, I guess the reveal
We can say
is
it.
perhaps yeah, so you find out that Daphne, the white woman he's been looking for, is in fact a mixed race black woman, uh, who has been passing as white. I guess that saying, like, I guess if you were maybe a white person, that is telling you something, like in the 90s, that's telling you something about passing and black people and someone's
Yeah.
relationship with their blackness. For me now, that is not telling me anything.
Yeah.
But I guess maybe then it was some sort of
Yeah.
revelation.
I think passing stories were really big in the 90s. People were really like, what? And
Ye-
I think we should say this, though I feel like it's stupid to do this because so many people do know, but because of a lot of pop culture things going on right now, I've seen a lot of people getting confused on passing and white presenting. So I'm just going to do just a quick one sentence each, okay? So white passing or white presenting is a person who is not white or not completely white who looks as if they could be white. That person still lives as a black person or a person of color. There's no secrets. There's no hiding. They're just fair skinned. For example, take Danzy Senna, one of our favorite authors. She look white as hell, okay? People think she's Jewish all the time. She is not. She writes a lot about being black. She talks about being black. That is her identity. She's just white presenting. White passing are people who look similarly to Danzy who pretend to be white. They tell people they are white. They hide their identity. These are two different things. White passing is a choice that someone makes. White presenting is just genetics. I'm not making a moral judgment on passing or not. I'm just laying it out for you guys, okay? So please stop calling people who are fair-skinned passing. They're not passing. You just don't know that they're black.
Did people say that?
Oh my God, yes, all the time. People talk about like celebrities who are really
Are
fair.
passing.
Yeah,
Also,
they'll be like, oh, Rashida Jones is passing. I'm like, no, babe, she's not. We know who her dad is. And also she
also
looks black.
her name's Rashida, but
Yeah.
I would say too in 2025, I don't know that passing is a thing. And like,
Yes.
you know what I mean? Like, you understand passing in a time of segregation and Jim Crow and things like that, where it was also to some degree like a safety, like, you were choosing perhaps like to lead a life that felt
Yes.
safer or an easier, whatever. Who the hell is passing in 20? Who's actively passing
Right.
in
I think
2025?
people might do it like, I think people might pass now in situations simply to like at the store. You know, they might just like pretend to be a little whiter than they are so that they don't get like harassed, you know, like little things, or like going to talk to their kid's teacher or something, you know, like in situations, but not not like disowning their family and moving away, and like,
Yes.
which is what it could have been sometimes, and what it seems like it sort of was for Daphne, though, aka Ruby, though she has not completely abandoned her family, because Frank is her brother, and that's the twist.
And the whole time they thought they were dating. They were like,
Yeah.
that's his white girlfriend.
Yeah, that's
and-
his white girlfriend, and they're having so much sex. And she's like, no, you have no idea what Frank means to me. And that, when she said that, I was like, that's because he's your brother and you're black. That's when I knew. There's a line where she's like, you have no idea the relationship between Frank and I. And I was like, I now have an idea. It sounds like.
Well, the funny thing too to me about, so my mother is from Louisiana.
Yes.
My grandmother is very, very light. And I'm also familiar with like Black people who a lot of people would call them white. And if you called them white, they would be like, absolutely not. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Like, they are very
That's
fair
white
people.
presenting.
And it's like, and it's not, they're not mixed. You know what I mean? They're like, they come from a lot of light skinned people, and they're like, we are all Black people. So I'm very familiar with that. My grandmother's very, very light. My sister's light. I have a lot of, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So the funny thing for me is that as a Black person, it's like the way I look at like Slash, and I was like, that looks like a Black person.
Yep.
Like, you could immediately kind of clock
Immediately.
it. Like, we can clock it. So it's funny to me that Easy went the whole book.
The whole
and couldn't-
book.
Who seems to, that man's from Louisiana. You don't know what light-skinned Black people look like.
Right.
And then Mouse, who I guess, because he knows her, but immediately clocks that that's a Black woman.
Right.
I was like,
Well, so
he
that's
didn't
what
figure that out.
that's what I think one of the things that Walter Mosley is saying about whiteness is that Black people, and I think there's a line about this later, can trick themselves into believing in the power of whiteness if it benefits them. Like, there is something to be said about the sex scene between Coretta and Easy, and the sex
Yeah.
scene between Daphne and not Easy. Yeah, and Easy.
Yeah.
Like, those are different things. And like the worship of Daphne and the way that he talks about having sex with her, and like the bath where she's cleansing him, and like the whole
Yeah.
like whiteness of that, and his obsession with her is just, that to me felt like the only real thing that he was saying about whiteness was like the way that Black people can fool themselves into thinking that it's something special, even when in this case, she's Black like the rest of us. She's just light as hell. And I think also like the title, Devil in a Blue Dress. I mean, I think you just have to add white devil in a blue dress, and you kind of get like a little bit of what's going on here.
Yeah. So, I mean, I would want to know too what you think of. So, like, aside from Daphne being this passing Black woman, I feel it was giving like, we are giving this whip. Like, listen, I know it's the 40s. Shit is
Yeah.
hard. Life is hard.
Yeah.
But I was like, we were piling on with her, where I was like, what type of who is this woman?
Yes.
And what is she doing? And the why of it, it sort of reminds me of like, do you remember like the days of when we all watched Scandal, like, in
Yes.
real time?
Mhm.
And you had Melly, the white
Yes.
first lady, who was just like a bitch, like in the
Yes.
show.
Yes.
And then they revealed that she had been raped by her husband's father.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it was like, oh, that's why she's a bitch. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh God, you know what I mean? It did start these conversations of like
Right.
using rape as sort of like, a character, like to describe someone's character or
Right, a character
suggesting that
trait.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, is just how that's messed up and not helpful and reductive and whatever. And I was feeling that reading Daphne, where I was like,
Hmm.
okay, we're giving her these traumas that I think are meant to inform her behavior, but in a way that maybe just because I'm existing now made me roll my eyes.
Yeah. I mean, because she also has this like very, very bizarre paternal rape story at a zoo, but then also that is like not exactly what happened.
Well, someone said they didn't believe it,
But
but
I think she says to him later, like, well, that's not exactly what happened.
was that she said?
But maybe what she's saying is that the rape stuff did happen with the dad, but that he didn't leave the family because Frank killed him. Maybe that's what she's like, the twist of the story. Like
Right.
she had told him this whole story about how her dad left and how she still loved him, and she knew that what they had was like tender and real, and all of that felt very not gonna pass in
Yeah.
2025.
Yeah.
Like that's just not being written now. You just cannot write it in that way. You could write it, but you'd have to do it different. You'd have to give her more time to have a redemptive arc where she realizes that she's been abused and not just leave it
Yes.
at like I loved my daddy.
And the way it related to, he seemed to be, I'm going to use a word from the time, like a floozy kind of, like that
Yes.
seemed to be what they were suggesting, where she's sleeping with all these men. And
Right.
I read that as like he's connecting, you know what I
The
mean? That it was
sexual
sort of meant to,
trauma with her sex life. But
yes.
she's really only sleeping with two men, right? She's sleeping with Easy and she's sleeping with Todd Carter.
But then didn't she also date Richard?
Oh, the child pornography peddler? I thought
Did
she was
she?
just friends with him. See, this is what happened.
See, yeah.
I kept being like, "Wait, what?"
I thought she had dated him too.
Oh, she might have. I
I
don't
don't know. Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard for me to know for sure. Listeners, I know you are rolling your eyes because you're like, Tracy, you're supposed to know, but I couldn't keep up. I even went back and tried to like read a synopsis, but it didn't have all the little details.
Yeah.
Uh yeah, I think that stuff, like the book is also extremely back heavy. Like he jams in so much stuff. But one of the things I wanted to read that he says about Daphne, Ruby, and that Mouse says it about Ruby and Easy is that they're talking. This is like at the denouement after we figured everything out, and then Mouse says she want to be white. All them years, people telling her how she light skinned and beautiful, but all the time she knows that she can't have what white people have. So she pretend, and then she lose it all. She can love a white man, but all he can love is the white girl he thinks she is. And then Easy says, "What's that got to do with me?" And Mouse says, "That's just like you, Easy. You learn stuff and you be thinking like white men be thinking. You be thinking that's what's right for them is what's right for me, for you. She look like she white and you think like you white. But brother, you don't know that you both poor niggas, and a nigga ain't never gonna be happy lest he accept what he is." Thank you for that dramatic reading.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I feel like that's sort of, the thesis of the book is like, when it comes down to it, she's trying to be something she's not. You're obsessed with her because you want what white people want and what white people have. And I think everything else is just sort of like a mess to get to that like one chunk.
Well, it's interesting too, because yes, I remember reading that and I was like, okay, yeah,
We're
you spelled
driving it
out for
home.
me. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. We're
Yes.
driving it home. But I'm thinking like, other than her, other than the white woman, I'm like, okay, he wants a house,
Yeah.
which I guess, you could argue that like at the time you're like, you're talking about striving for things that only feel available to white people. But other than the house and like employment, I'm like, what else was he after that white people had? Like, what else was he striving for that felt very white, other than kind of like that security, which is maybe that's all
Right.
it is.
Well, I don't know. I'm thinking more. I think Mouse is also sort of getting at that, like he was blinded by her whiteness because he was thinking like he couldn't see that she was actually black because he was thinking like white people, like Like,
Yeah, but then in what other way was then I'm like, in what other ways was he thinking like white people?
well, maybe because he was just letting the white people tell him what was happening instead of actually thinking for himself and seeing the picture more clearly. I don't exactly
But
know.
I do feel like every time a white man said something to him, he'd be like, "That don't sound right. Let me like
That's true.
he seemed to very quickly like he clocked that like what's it Alcott like the first guy he was
Yeah.
like can't trust like he
Yeah.
immediately was like can't trust this guy. He very quickly
That's
seemed to be
true.
able to recognize that there were they all had ulterior motives and they were in fact using him for something else. So
I
that's
mean,
why I'm
so
like, that seemed
this is after Mouse reveals that he's killed Frank. And so he said, so and Easy says to him, like, you didn't have to kill him. And Mouse was like, what the hell are you talking about? And then that's when he says, you're just like Ruby. Like that he believes that there's some sort of world and where like people can like, that there's like this white paradise where like people can just exist and we don't have to kill people who want to kill us. And like, I think maybe it's like sort of talking about that Black people are like more interested in what's in front of us and white people like want to believe in these ideals that are just not
Mhm.
true to like what's actually happening. Maybe.
It sounds like what he is saying, whether or not I'm agreeing with it, but that does seem
Yes.
to be like
I think
what
that's
he
what
is
he's saying. Whether or
saying.
not
Yeah.
it's proved, bared out in the rest of the story is sort
Yeah.
of, but like that's clearly what Walter Mosley wants to say to us. Like that's the
Yes.
message.
Yes.
Let's take a quick break and then I want to talk about the house. Valentine's Day is upon us, and I've got love on the brain. Love for books, duh, of course. Hello. Did you forget what podcast you're listening to? I love bringing you all great reads, exclusive author interviews, and behind the scenes book gossip. But I can only do that with your support over on Patreon and Substack. Our Stacks Patreon community, also known as the Stacks Pack, is where you can go for book club meetups, a private, very active Discord, and a year-long mega reading challenge to help you achieve all your reading goals. Plus, you also get that monthly bonus episode. Now, over on the Substack, you can subscribe to my newsletter, Unstacked, where I keep the book conversations going. I also give you a healthy dose of sports and pop culture, definitely some hot takes happening over there. And again, that bonus episode. If you don't have a few dollars to spare, don't worry. There are free options on the Substack and the Patreon to get you a little extra Stacks magic. Making this podcast is a total team effort, and by supporting my Patreon and my Substack, you allow me to support my amazing team that makes the show possible every single week. So if you or your friends are looking to meet other book lovers and support this indie podcast, come hang out with me on Patreon, Substack, or both. I would love to have you. And since we're talking about love, you can gift subscriptions to the Patreon and the Substack for that special reader in your life. For the Stacks Pack, head to patreon.com/thestacks. And for the newsletter, head to tracythomas.substack.com. And also, there are links to both in the show notes. Okay, see you in the Stacks. Okay, we're back. I want to talk about the house because I actually think it's one of the most important parts of the entire book. So the reason that Easy does all of this stuff, goes with DeWitt Albright, tries to find Daphne, wants the money, is because he owns a house in Los Angeles in 1948 as a Black person. For those of you who don't know a lot about Black American history, shame on you. But also, there's a thing called the Great Migration that Easy is a huge part of. It's Black people moving from the South to the North and the West between 1917 and the 1970s, basically post-World War I up through the end of Vietnam, let's say. And the reason that they left was for racial terror, for opportunities, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Owning property was basically not possible for Black people in the American South at the time. So I think that this like owning the house as the reason he does stuff is maybe one of the most compelling reasons for someone to do dumb fuckery. Like, like sometimes I'll read like a romance novel and it'll be like this and that and this and that. I'm like, if you guys had just talked to each other, this would be solved.
Right.
Like, I felt like this was a strong enough why that you could understand a person who's just come back from a war, having witnessed all these things, having left his home and feeling like this is a piece of property and land that I own that belongs to me. And no matter what, it is mine. And meanwhile, in other parts of the country, there's these stories coming back of like Black people who have bought homes in white neighborhoods where the white people are driving them out or torturing them or pulling them out of their house and murdering them. Like there's all these crazy stories around property. And so I think like historically, this is the most believable and important thing in the entire book.
Yeah. And coupled with him getting laid off because he was talking back,
Right.
it seemed to be this suggestion, right? That he was kind of mouthy with his
Yeah. He was like
Italian,
lazy, didn't do
yeah,
what they wanted him to do when they wanted.
to his Italian ex boss. And the scene where he went back and wouldn't apologize, I was like, that was pretty satisfying.
That
I was
was
like,
great.
yeah,
That
yeah, I
was
was like,
great.
don't. And so the combination of not wanting to sort of degrade himself and grovel for his job back, but then still needing to hang on to the house
Yeah.
was actually like a legitimate, like, yeah, that's a really strong reason for going forth and doing these things. Cause I was like, yeah, you're protecting this thing that is very important to you, and also your previous means of maintaining it now feel like not something you're willing, you're not willing to sort of give up your dignity to
Right.
continue on. And I was like, yeah, I was like, sure, easy.
Right. And that's the whole reason why someone would uproot their life in one
Yes.
place to move to another place, right? It's like the whole point of him coming to California is so that he could own land, is so that he could have upward mobility. So the idea that he would do anything to hold on to that felt justifiable at least, but like extremely compelling to me, I think is how I would
And
say it.
I will say, in other mysteries that I've read, it's generally this like, I'm curious. It's
Yes.
usually like it's a lot of like I'm just so when it's like a civilian detective.
Yeah.
We know when it's a real detective, okay, they have
Like
to go
their
solve the
job.
mystery. But when it's a person who gets sucked in, it's like they're just a curious person. Or for example, in one of the series I read, I only read the three of them, but she was a mystery writer. And so
Okay.
part of the reason that was following this
Right.
mystery, because it was like, ooh, maybe there's juice for the book, or like,
Mm,
and this feels like a much more solid reason to go down a path that's clearly dangerous
right.
than, ooh, I'm bored and this like
Right.
I'm just sort of like being nosy.
Right. Cause like as the alarm bells are going off, it's like, okay, but he still does it. And so we need a why. And this why totally worked for me.
Yes, yes.
Usually this part is always like the least compelling part in a thriller or a mystery. I'm always like, okay, but like, why are you doing this? Like, go
Yeah.
home, take a bath.
Well, it's funny too because I was prepared for like the racial politics to be off. Like I had
Yeah,
already primed myself from
me
that. So it's
too.
sort of like I'm not going to let myself get too bogged down by this. And you're right, like I was flying through it. It was like a fun read. I think it just was like the ending you were like, "Ah, what did I like if the book were twice as long, like if I'd been reading it and realized there was twice as much book left, that would have made more sense to me."
Yeah.
But because it did all just like I'm introduced to people, these things are happening. Oh, this is interesting. This is interesting. And it's wrapped up in such a like quick, kind of random way. That to me is what so that when you ended it, you were like, huh. Even though while I'd been reading it, I had been like, okay, yeah, yeah. Here we
Yeah,
go.
same. I was with it. I was with it. I mean, I rarely say a book could have been longer, but I think this one could have, like, we needed a little more fleshing out in the last 50 pages because so much happens. I mean, Mouse shows up on page 150 and the book ends on 219. Mouse kills like 9 people. Mouse is a killing
Also,
machine.
can we talk about the mayoral candidate with the weird trafficked child, which
Yes.
we barely touched on, and then he's murdered, and you're like, who the hell killed him, and for what? You're like, why
But
is
then
he
we
here?
find out that Daphne killed him. But why
Yes,
did she kill him? Do you know?
it's I. My guess, I thought it was because the child was being abused, and she was empathizing with the abused child. And so she killed. That's what I thought
Oh,
that was because I'm like, why the hell else do we have this
I see.
child here if not to be sort of, something that's motivating Daphne.
Okay,
That's what
this
I
makes
thought.
sense. This makes sense. Okay, thank you.
I mean, but who
I literally
knows?
have a list of everyone that I came up with who's dead, and then I have who killed them, and then next to some of them, I just have why, and then for the other ones, I have the reason I think that we were told why. I don't think that Easy kills anyone,
No, he doesn't.
which is crazy. 'Cause I'm like, you
Yeah,
should be killing people.
but
He's gone to
also
jail like 3 times for allegedly killing people, but hasn't killed a single person.
I will say I understand how, especially when this book came out, and it's a black man at the
Right.
center of it, and it is not following some of these mystery tropes, but
Yeah.
it does scratch a similar itch because it's like he actually can't kill anyone because if he's the detective, you know what I mean? Like the detective
Yeah.
can't be killing people too. Like
That's true. That's true.
that feels like mayhem and not and so yeah, he kind of can't, but he's like surrounded by murder.
Just like everyone he knows is like
Yes,
literally
yeah.
everyone he knows
The
is murdered or murdering.
My favorite was who was the junior, the bouncer,
Oh yes, Junior killed Richard, the child sex trafficker.
which you're just like, huh? And whatever. Junior's reason for killing this guy, it's like I guess that's okay, fine, whatever. You felt like you need to kill him, but you're like, why do I care that he killed this guy? And why are
Yes.
you killing? Why is he so casually murdering people?
And his reason for killing was because he was trafficking the child.
I thought it was that man owed him some money and he went over there and he tried to. I thought that's what it was. Like they got into some sort of
No.
disagreement.
Oh, no, because he did go over there because he took him home because he was drunk. Remember, we see him early and he's like the drunk guy at the bar, and then
Yeah,
the
wasn't
mom
it
is
like
like, take him.
wasn't it like he was supposed I thought it was like he was supposed to pay him something and
Oh,
he
and then he
didn't.
got mad and he just like snapped. I don't know.
I think so. Because why is Junior killing him for being a child trafficker?
Because he likes kids. I don't know.
Yeah.
He just thinks he's icky. I don't fucking know. But the best part is at the very end of the book ends on 219. At 216, after Easy is like, I got Carter to clear me, so the cops are going to leave me alone. And he's like, no big deal. And then literally at the end of the book, he's like, he's talking to him and he's like, you're going to spend the rest of your life in jail. And then someone says, you could try Junior Fournay against that print. And he says, who? And he says, the bouncer at John's. He might fit it. I'm like, Easy, you just sold this man out at the end of the book. Like, we made it to the very end. What happened to like, don't talk to the cops? He's over here being like, by the way, I'm clear, but have you ever heard of Junior? Might want to check him out.
It seemed so unnecessary because he'd already gotten off.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like,
yeah.
And earlier in the book, he's like, I know nobody's going to talk to the police because we don't talk to the police. And then he's like, by the way, just hot tip for you guys. Junior, here's his number. This is his mom, his blood type. Just check it all out.
Also, okay, so Junior killed Richard. Richard was the child trafficker who presumably trafficked the mayoral candidate's child to him.
Yes.
And we care about the mayoral candidate because
We
Todd,
don't.
something with Todd.
Because Todd.
Is it
Yeah.
the guy?
So, okay. Did you watch the movie?
I was going to, and then I decided not to because I didn't know how different they would be. So I was
Okay.
like, oh, I don't want to talk about the book. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I was like, I don't want to talk about the movie stuff, but
I'm going to spoil the movie a little bit for you.
please.
I
love
watched
spoilers.
it last night. Okay. Oh, right. That's right. You said on Sam
Yes.
Sanders' show. I don't like spoilers because my whole joy of like reading is trying to figure things out.
Yeah.
So I hate to be spoiled. So, hot take, the movie is better than the book.
Yeah, that's believable.
Because the movie makes it make sense. In the movie, we get all the way up to the scene where he sort of like rescues her and takes her to like the safe house place. It's not the exact same. They do not have sex. They do not kiss, the white and him. There's no sex between him and Daphne. There is sex with him and Coretta. What they do is in that scene, he's like, there's pictures of the mayoral candidate Tehran with the child. Daphne has spent $7,000 to get these pictures because Tehran knows that she's Black. And
Oh, she's
Todd Carter,
blackmailing him.
yes, and Todd, because he's blackmailing her basically. And Todd
Yeah.
Carter, her white boyfriend, he is also running for mayor. So they're competing,
Oh.
and he drops out of the race because he finds out she's Black and doesn't want this to happen. And so she buys the pictures in the hopes. So Albright is actually hired by Tehran in the movie to get the pictures and
Oh.
get her. So he also knows she's Black. So
That's
it's
much better.
yes, makes so much more sense. So Albright is working for Tehran. Tehran knows she's Black. Carter knows she's Black, and Tehran and Carter are against each other for the mayoral race. She does
That
not kill Tehran in the book or in the movie. He doesn't die. Basically, the Carter's just able to run again, and then she leaves town. Her and Frank leave town. Frank also does not die in the movie.
I think what this is helping me identify with the book, where Easy's drive makes a lot of sense. And I
Yes.
think what was losing us was everyone else's was very wonky.
Vague.
And
Yes.
they're doing very dangerous, serious shit for very flimsy reasons.
Yes.
In the version you just talked about in the movie, it's like, oh, that's what they shored up. Like I imagine like that's what they had to fix for the movie. Because then I don't need that big of a reason for killing. Like, especially like in a time with no DNA testing, I'm like, yeah,
Right.
it was much easier to get away with shit. And it was just a way, like I would believe that that's the way you'd solve this problem.
Right.
And yeah, it's like that's what was hard with the book is like you were thrown a lot of murder, a lot of things for reasons that didn't make sense. Easy seemed to be the only person who was kind of moving in a way that you could
Yeah.
track, and solving for that would really shore up the story.
Yeah. And also, Joppy still kills Coretta, but it's an accident in the movie. He's supposed to just go scare her because she's going to talk about Daphne, or like she knows about the pictures or something.
Yeah.
So he's supposed to scare her, and then he ends up killing her. So like it just everything in the movie is around Daphne being white and Tehran being a sexual predator, and the rest of it is just
Yeah.
there's no superfluous things. Like there's no murder of Frank. There's just like less death, more streamlined, passing sexual abuse together. Also, Daphne does not have a sexual abuse storyline in the movie.
I was getting a little bit, it felt a little Chinatown where you're like, okay, I'm in Los Angeles at this period of time and it's like politics and like it's that like noir type vibe,
Yeah.
but nothing was making sense. And so to lean into even just the politics of that, of like they're both running for mayor, there's scandals, that
Right.
feels like, yeah, like that feeds into that kind of noir, again, Chinatown type thing that I'm like, oh yeah, I get like, and you have all of these powerful people who are operating in a way that's like beyond your grasp. Like you kind of can't do anything
Yeah.
about it and you get caught up in it. And now like here I am, just this one individual, like trying to do right. Which yeah, it feels like, maybe if he had who gave him notes? Who gave him notes?
Yeah.
Maybe someone should have.
I mean, this is his debut. So I think one of the things
Yeah.
that's really interesting is like usually I feel like with authors, their debut, even if it's a hit, doesn't supersede the rest of their career. But I feel like Walter Mosley is still known for this book. And I have to assume that he's gotten better as a writer. He's written like 60 books,
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting that like a lot of people's introduction to him is his first book, because I don't think that happens a lot. I mean, I think like Amy Tan, yes. I think Toni Morrison maybe with The Bluest Eye, but most people know her best book is Beloved. Like
Yeah.
I think that there is another book that people read of hers that like helps them to sort of contextualize everything. And for him, it's like his greatest book was his first book. And the movie also becomes this huge phenomenon. And so I think people go back to the book in a way that maybe they wouldn't if not for
Yeah.
Denzel, like being hot.
And if you think about it in terms of you had to write an origin story, which
Yeah.
can be hard and is not necessarily indicative of, like what the rest of the stories are going to look like. it's because I feel like even when I think about it that way, like to me, it's very obvious that Easy can't kill anyone if you know he's going to go become a detective. If you sit down
Right.
saying, I'm starting a detective series, yeah, you cannot have this man killing people in this book because
Right.
that's going to look crazy on book 47 or whatever.
Right.
But
Because then he's a mercenary or he's a gangster. He's not a
yeah,
detective.
yes, exactly. So if you know that and you know that that's hopefully what you're planning on doing in the future, that then when you end the book where it's like all these people have been killed, but he's done nothing. It's like, okay, that makes a little bit more sense if I know that this is going to continue and I'm going to keep following this character and like I'm going to keep seeing them. Like it tells me something about how they operate in the world. So it almost
Yeah.
feels like it's a really long origin story,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
I think
Uh
that's right.
yeah.
And I also think, like you said, who's giving him notes. And I actually wonder how much went into this book because he was sort of the first to do this, like this black mystery writer. Of like he's a legend in the field. I mean, everyone gives him credit for inventing the black detective. Obviously, he
Yeah.
didn't, but like, so I do wonder, knowing what I know about publishing in 2025, how little goes into black debut authors. I'm wondering how much feedback he did get. Like, I'm wondering if he was sort of like they were like this is good enough, like no one's going to read this, who cares, let's churn it out. And then
Yeah.
when the movie becomes a thing and people like it and they decide to make the movie, a lot more effort and money goes into it because you get Denzel Washington and it's like, okay, we got to flesh this out. Like there's only like we can only make this work if we can make this work
Yeah.
in a way that he probably did not have that kind of time and attention in
Yeah.
the late 80s, early 90s as the book's coming out.
And to me, the notes are mostly about the mystery part of it. Like that's,
Yes.
like I think the color of the book is like, yeah, that's
Yeah.
there. It's more
I think
like,
it's like who did what and why. Like someone
yeah,
needed
you're
to be
right.
like, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, hey man, you're writing a mystery. Let's just shore up a couple things, or maybe let's get rid of a couple characters or whatever.
Yeah.
That's the kind of that
That's
to
what,
me is
yeah,
the kind of feedback that I'm like, oh, was that there? Because clearly it's sort of given what you're saying about the movie, it's sort of the most obvious thing you would sit down to do once you're revisiting the material.
totally. Totally. I want to talk about the character of Mouse quickly because he, to your point of like, Easy can't do anything wrong, like he can't kill anybody, is the foil. He's the mercenary. We learn about him early, as soon as Easy meets DeWitt, he's like, he reminds me of a fellow I knew back home, my best friend Mouse, a fucking crazy guy. And we find out that Mouse killed his stepfather who was like holding money. And we find out that Mouse loves to kill people, especially for money, and is a cold-blooded killer and a great guy, best friend,
Yeah.
but also morally bankrupt when it comes to money and murder. I mean, to the point that when he does show up at 150, Easy is like, I can't tell him that Daphne has money because he'll just kill her and take the money.
Yeah.
Like he only is here to kill people.
Something that feels very obvious that's only now really jumping into my head is if I'm also reminded that they're all veterans, I
Yes.
wonder if like the way we're looking at a veteran committing murder feels different, like from World War. If it's like, well, they've seen some shit, or they'd been in this space where this is what they were told to do, and
Right.
like that's impacted them, and so I wonder if anything about them being veterans is supposed to
Yeah.
explain these tendencies a little bit.
Well, one of the notes I had taken was how I thought that the like depiction of PTSD was really interesting in the book. Like Easy is so violent and obsessed with violence. Like the scene at the pier where the white people are harassing him and he like has this like fantasy of like murdering them and destroying them, and like he sees the eyes of the Germans, and like that part to me I was surprised by because I'd never heard anybody really talk about that with this book, but that really jumped out at me. Like the flashing back, the voice that he has that comes on page like 99 that tells him what to do and only shows up in the worst moments and is just cut and dry. Do this, do that. I'm like, oh, that's like the personification of PTSD, right? It's like he shuts down and it's fight or flight. And I think throughout the book, the violence that's running through Easy's head is really, really interesting.
Yeah, and I will say for me with Mouse, I mean, he's like a scary character. But I did find it very funny that one, he was like, oh yeah, that's Ruby. That's a what
Yeah.
lady, like immediately. And I thought it was very funny that as I read it, his kind of whole reason for coming down is because his girlfriend is pissed at him. And
Yeah.
he's like, oh, I come back and bring some money. Maybe she'll take me back. And I was like,
Yeah.
you came down here and did all this shit to get your girl back? Like that sort of seems to have been
Right.
his main motivator
Right.
for all of
Right.
this. And then he's like,
Right.
got my money. Maybe she'll take me back now. And I was like, he's kind of funny if he
Yeah.
weren't so terrifying.
So in the book, he's very scary. But in the
Yes.
movie, he's played by Don Cheadle. And he has a little bit more of that, like, just got to kill people. Like, it's definitely more like, oh, shucks, murderer, as opposed to like killer. And he's very drunk in the movie. He's sort of like a little goofy, which is really different than how I had imagined him. But I actually think it makes, again, more sense because you already have the Joppy character who's kind of scary and big.
Yes.
And Mouse was sort of the same in the book as Joppy, scary
Also,
and big.
He's a pretty like straight-laced guy for the most, like he seems pretty serious.
Yeah.
And so having someone who is a little funnier, who's a little like more flamboyant or whatever, does feel like a good foil to the Easy we're presented with.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, I think Mouse in the book still provides like a little bit of that levity because he just shows up and is just killing.
Yeah.
Like
In
he's
a
just
zoot
like,
suit. Shows up in a zoot suit, just ready to kill.
That's exactly right. Okay, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I wanted to make sure we talk. Well, can we just quickly talk about that insane sex scene?
Oh my God. You go first.
I mean, so they kiss early in the book, and I was like, what's going on here? Then they go to the safe house.
She kisses him. Also,
she kisses him.
They make a point to be like, she kissed him.
Yes.
And he's like, oh my God, the white lady kissed me.
Right. And then they go to the safe house, and he takes a bath. She puts him in the bath. He's in a bath, and she's washing him.
Wasn't he hurt?
Oh, yes, because he'd been beaten up by the cops.
Yeah.
That's right. So she gives him a bath, and she's washing him from his toes to his head. And we find out quite early on in the bath that he has a large erection. She like lifts his penis up to clean. And then she's like, I have to pee. And goes and pees while he's in the bath. And then they start having sex and then have so much sex that it hurts his penis that she's like turned on by that. They continue having so much sex. And then she's like, I love you. And he's like, I love you. We love each other. And then he's like, but don't you love Frank? And that's when she's like, you have no idea my relationship with Frank. This is my 1940s voice.
Yeah.
This is called acting. And then they have a lot more sex. Like, it's just so much sex. The writing is so weird. There's so much I love you, which is bizarre.
Yeah. Then they go have that weird Chinese dinner.
Oh, yes.
Like they go to that Chinese restaurant.
And that's when she confesses the story about her dad, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah. It was out of nowhere. Like, it was very surprising. Yeah. Like not necessarily that they like hooked up, but it was just like, oh, we're really getting it. Like
we're really going into a sex scene,
and for a book that isn't very long, a disproportionate amount of pages, I would argue.
Yeah.
To which, because it has very little ultimate relevance in the story. Like, it's not like they've actually fallen in love.
Right.
I guess it's tying back to what Mouse tells him at the end about, you're thinking white and all, like, I guess.
Right.
But I feel like we already kind of got, like, if that's the point you were making, we already sort of got that because you could tell that he was starting to become enamored with her.
Right.
So I'm kind of like, what was the point? Like, what exactly were we supposed to take from this? Because you dedicated a lot of writing to
space.
It.
A lot of space to this like magical white woman sex scene. And like the love part, it was
they love each other. You're right. I so heard that.
But she also loves Todd Carter so much.
Yes.
And I'm like that's her real true love, and he knows her better than any, like that whole part. I mean, I think your overall point of like Easy has very clear motivations and is very clear to the reader, and everyone else is extremely confusing. And so when he interacts with all these people, I'm just like, what is happening? Which is part of the reason why me, a person who takes extensive notes as I read for book club, is like, wait, what happened in that scene? Because there's so many scenes in so many places, and nobody makes sense except for Easy.
Well, the other thing with Easy is that throughout the book, he's very careful. Like
Yeah.
he's very, very careful about
Yeah.
who he's talking to, how he's talking to them, what
Yeah.
he's revealing, what he's letting people know, what he tells the cops. He's just very he's very careful. This was insane. So I'm like, in what like and it wasn't like you could tell he was sort of like attracted to her and whatever, but it
Hmm.
wasn't like, oh
Hmm.
my God, I'm so obsessed with her, I'm
Hmm.
overcome, I'm throwing all caution to the wind. It was
Right.
like you did something very careless and just sort of, where I'm like, it just felt unlike the person we have been with the whole book, with
Right.
not a lot of lead up between them.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's right. It was surprising. And it
It
just,
did
yeah.
sort of feel like a man wrote it, where it's just
Yes,
like
for sure.
all of a sudden we're giving it's like, yeah, they've had very little like interaction that is romantic or flirty or
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
They've had like intimate, it's like the murder and he's protecting her, they find the
Right.
body, but they haven't had, there's no vibes. There's
No.
very few vibes between them. And then, but all of a sudden they get to the house and it's like all bets are off. It's like, this does sound like a man wrote this.
For sure. And I think again, like that speaks to the moment of like this black guy getting to write this book. He's clearly writing to other black men. Like his
Yes.
audience is clearly black men, which I think is great because I do think like in the literary landscape, even today, there are not that many books that are written to black men. There's a lot
Yeah.
more books that are written to black women. And obviously white women and white men, but he really does sort of carve out this space for himself. And I think he does it because he's like, who needs backstory? Let's get to the fucking.
Yeah.
Fucking so much
Yeah.
all day, every day, inside, outside, upstairs, downstairs, at the Chinese restaurant. Hey, hey, like it's just like, let's get it.
And to that point, like, I definitely get why I get why this is popular. I get
Yeah,
why, like, and I'm like, yeah, getting a news, like, not a new segment of people to read, but like an underserved market. I'm like,
right.
I get why Easy is an appealing character to men, to black men. Like, he is, he's like a quote unquote, he's like a pretty upstanding guy. He has a lot of like pride. He is a hard worker. He has this house. He has these goals. He's like a man. I'm like, I get, and you see him mostly do the right thing. So it's like, I get why this would be appealing. And you're kind of like, you've presented me with this person. He's got caught up in some shit and now it's solved.
Yeah.
Like, I can see how that would satisfy a lot of people.
Well, and I feel like as much as I'm like harping on the little details, overall, I sort of liked this book. Like I had a
Yeah.
great time. It was
Yeah.
sort of a mess, but I was like, this is great. What a mess. And it was only at the end where I was like, have no clue what happened. But I was with it the entire way. Even in the sex scene, I was like, sure, they're fucking. Like,
Yeah.
of course. Like it didn't feel so out of left field. It just was confusing. I also think in the timeline of Walter Mosley's life, this is his debut. It comes out in 1990. He was born in 1952. So he's 38 years old when the book
Yeah.
comes out. The character of Easy is super young. I think he's like
Yeah.
25 or 28 or something. So that also tracks of just being like, I know I'm not supposed to kiss this white woman, but if she kisses me, like it's on, you know?
He also gets with his girlfriend while he's in the
Oh,
other room.
yeah.
So you're like, I guess this
You're
is
like, sure.
yeah.
And I think maybe that is a character trait. Like he's really cautious, except for when it comes to sex. Like
Yeah.
he's just a horny 20 something. Like,
Yeah.
that's like the way to get to him. That and alcohol.
Yeah, it was. I mean, again, the way I had been reading these mysteries recently was because, like, I don't really like that, like, guilty pleasure, like, pool book. Like, I'm like, we know what we mean, but like,
Yeah.
whatever, you can read anything by a pool. But there is that, like, yeah, a book that it's like a nice dry white wine that goes down easy. You're like, and it was
Yeah.
like $12. It's like a $12 bottle that goes down really easy. And I'm like, hell yeah, I'll drink that. And I feel like these books, a lot of these mysteries for me are in that category of like,
Yeah.
get me the lady
Yeah.
out in the house and she's following the thing and I'm getting all these descriptors about tea time. Even honestly, I really liked the scene at that Chinese restaurant when they were like, you can get it with the meats and you can get it with this and
Right.
you can get it with
There's like
this. I was,
three things.
yeah, I
Yeah.
was like, I was like, it was, and for that period of time, like in the 40s, that part of LA, having,
Yeah.
you know, all of these different people of color in this city and where they
Yeah.
were and how they were living. I was like, that's actually really interesting and readable. So like, yeah, no, I too, yes, like there are a lot of things you can harp at, but I'm like, ultimately, it did feel like that $12 bottle of white wine where I'm
Yes.
like, yeah,
It's
absolutely. Like,
exactly, yeah. And I think that's hard to do. Like
yes.
I think it's easy to pick like a book like this apart because we're assholes, but I feel like it's not easy to write something like this. I feel like that usually becomes extremely bad quickly.
Yes.
Like it's like
Yes.
I cannot finish this. I already have a wine headache. I also think we didn't mention this and we're out of time, but I do want to just say I loved seeing LA. I loved it. Living here, knowing all the different neighborhoods, knowing that he was driving to Malibu from
Yeah.
Watts. I was like, baby, what? Like at
Yeah,
9
even
p.m.
when he talked about like East LA and like the Mexican his Mexican friend and like all of like that community and that neighborhood, and I was like, yeah,
Right.
this was
Right.
and like I am a little bit, he's like driving down La Cienega, it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
I know La Cienega too.
Yes,
But
totally.
he did paint a picture of LA at that period of time that felt specific and like satisfying and interesting, and like I was like, yeah, here we are.
I think that's right. I think that's exactly right. Here we are. Devil in a Blue Dress by Walter Mosley. Well, we've made it to the end, everybody. Make sure you listen to the end of today's episode to find out what our June book club pick will be. And Kara Brown, I know I harassed you to get you to come on the show, but it was fucking worth it. You are a dream guest. You remain a dream guest. Thank you so, so much for doing this with me.
Thank you for having me. And, an ask and an email is not harassment. And
well, I harassed you at the party. I ran up to you and was like, I have to meet you. I'm a fan.
No, but this was very fun. And also, I don't know that I would have read this book otherwise. So thank you for that.
Yay.
Yeah.
All right. And everybody else, we will see you in the stacks. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for listening. And thank you again to Kara Brown for being my guest. Okay, now it's time for what you've all been waiting for, the announcement of our June book club pick, which is The Art Thief, a true story of love, crime, and a dangerous obsession by Michael Finkel. This work of narrative nonfiction is about a prolific art thief who stole, but never sold, over $2 billion worth of art. It has been described as, quote, the most remarkable true crime narratives of our time, a riveting story of art, theft, love, and an insatiable hunger to possess beauty at all costs. We will discuss this book on Wednesday, June 25th, and you can tune in next week to find out who our guest will be. If you love the show and you want inside access to it, head to patreon.com/thestacks to join the Stacks Pack community and check out my newsletter at traceythomas.substack.com. Make sure you're subscribed to The Stacks wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you're listening through Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please leave us a rating and a review. For more from The Stacks, follow us on social media at The Stacks Pod on Instagram, Threads, and TikTok, and check out our website, thestackspodcast.com. Today's episode of The Stacks was edited by Christian Duenas with production assistance from Waikia Freelo. Our graphic designer is Robin McCrite, and our theme music is from Tagira Gis. The Stacks is created and produced by me, Tracy Thomas.